Greetings, everyone. I'm Anne Klein, and I am happy to be offering you today a kind of medley of topics that interest me around breath. I was really inspired by Francis's great creativity in and out of the classroom and introducing this amazing topic. So lots of fun. Looking forward to exchange with all of you. I'm going to be reflecting somewhat phenomenologically on breath and how being connected with breath can shift our sense of being, shift it also in dependence on where in the body we touch into as we experience breath. And I'm going to also connect it to other topics within the Tibetan context that are somewhat related to breath, namely, of course, lung, prana in the body, and also the ancient category of la, vitality. So breath, of course, is related with the element of air, and air is defined as that which is light and moving. So that means that everything that moves is connected with the air element, which at its most subtle is green light, and is associated also with the all-accomplishing wisdom embodied in Amoghasiddhi and the karma family. As Chiganamka Norba Rinpoche once said, air is not like the other elements. And I've often wondered what he meant by that. But one thing is that, of course, everything that moves is therefore connected with air and in some sense with breath. In this way, the element is also connected with principles of dynamism, which in the Tibetan context include, for example, the life force known as La, as well as lung, as I've mentioned. And though I won't discuss it here, I think also connected with the dynamic display, or tel, is so central to the Dzogchen tradition. So let's go back to breath. In practice, the tripartite structure of breathing, in, rest, exhale, is associated with the seed syllables, homa, hon, which in turn are regarded as the essence of the three Buddhakayas, white om, red ah, blue hum, the Nirmanakaya or formed form, the Sambhogakaya or bright form, the sheer form, Dharmakaya. So breath is considered in oral commentaries, I've heard, to just by its very nature be that sound. And of course, we know from the Tibetan context that the sound is the letter, not the ligature. So the sound, the seed syllable, is itself the sound of the breath, of the three kayas. This then makes breath one of the simplest bridges between the ordinary human state and the awakened state, breathing three kayas all the time. When it comes to wisdom, which is also, of course, an element of the three kayas, crucial element, wisdom can't be taught, thought, or expressed. Masamjame shiro parochin. That's a key phrase from Rahula's famous praise of wisdom. And Jigme Lingpa talks about this in his Wisdom Chat, number 71, where he comments on this verse. And he says there that prajna paramita, mother wisdom, can't be expressed because the essence of speech, expression is speech, he says, and the essence of speech is wind, is lung. It can't be expressed because of the way wind moves in the body during ordinary usage of speech. It moves through the movement of the karmic winds, the side channels. It doesn't enter the central channel, which is the only place where wisdom is manifest. Longchenpa also says that wisdom is everywhere in the body, but there's a certain way in which the energies are associated with the central channel are a support for wisdom. So if that's not happening, Jigme Lingpa is saying, you're not talking about wisdom. You can't. Therefore, wisdom cannot be spoken. This, in turn, relates to Dzogchen practices for helping the winds enter into the central channel. These are held quite secretly still in Tibet, and I'm a respecter of those customs. However, the core principles are described briefly in Longchenpa's Semjongdung, 7 mind trainings, explicitly trainings for Dzogchen, where he offers as a basis for Dzogchen these 7 trainings, which are found in the Precious Copper Letters subsection of the Bima Nyingtik, commented on in Nyingtik Yashi. So the placement of the text also tells us it's a Dzogchen text. The 7th of the 7 trainings focuses on the 3 non-conceptual states, unifying bliss and emptiness, clarity and emptiness, and then reflecting on reality itself. The winds are most elaborately involved in the first, the non-conceptual union of bliss and emptiness. This meditation begins with bringing attention deep into the body to the central channel, noticing its color, its size, its feel, its transparency, its luminosity, going from the navel center where it is closed through up to the crown chakra where it is open. Below the navel, there's a blazing red ah and an upside down hum at the top of the channel, and the heat rises through the central channel in the course of the meditation session and begins to melt the amrita constituted hum at the top of the channel. So it kind of drizzles down and percolates through all of the channels of the body. Once the channels are filled with nectar, you engage in the 4 applications, the Chorwa Shi, pulling in, settling, churning the breath around in the belly, and shooting it out like an arrow. Holding your breath while this is done, so that the intake of the breath is the first step, settling it, and you're pulling up from the bottom and pushing down from the top, so you have a pocket, a vase there, which then you hold while you move it, churn it around your own belly. In the next 2 non-conceptual practices, joining clarity and emptiness and contemplating reality, you don't churn anymore. It's less tightly held in the body. And in the practice of non-conceptual reality, there is no holding, according to oral instructions at least. These 4 applications are not, strictly speaking, tantric practices. Longchenpa makes a point in Trumta Ze, in Precious Treasury of Philosophical Systems, that Dzogchen, as Dzogchen, doesn't actually feel the need to engage in the lung business to get the energies to enter the central channel, because this happens naturally. And part of what allows it to happen naturally is actually another thing associated with movement and with the whole energy of the body, as well as breath, settling the breath, rlung pup. You hear a lot, rlung pup, lulu, cayenne, these different ways of just being open and relaxed, which means has significance for how the breath is experienced, just kind of dropping down into the belly, settling, being in the view as possible. And that will bring the energies into the channels. However, almost all Dzogchenpas, and I think all the ones that I have known, do in fact practice Tantra and do in fact practice Zalong. So all of this, of course, is to accomplish wisdom. And we have seen the breath is vital to life, and it's vital to the life of wisdom as well. So who can impart this wisdom? Well, in the Tibetan tradition, of course, that would be the Lama. And what is a Lama? Lama is one who has a lot of law. Buddhists generally etymologize this as High Mother. However, the word law seems to predate the arrival of Buddhism in Tibet and seems to have come actually from ancient Turkey and be the equivalent of that word kut, Q-U-T, which seems to have very much the same meaning as our understanding of law. Now, an interesting thing about law, or kut, is that it is not limited to only creatures who are alive, which is mostly where we find things associated with breath. But law, as we know, it is part of a human being. And And it is also part of the landscape. There is La in mountains and rivers. There may be a La Tso, a soul lake, that is somehow very deeply connected with one's own life and the La in one's own body. So La is a kind of transcendent kind of entity, which is unusual. It can be in land, it can be in humans, and which is not true of other things closely associated with the body and its vitality. There's La, there's Sok, there's Namshe. So La can leave the body. It will impact one's health, but you don't die, at least not immediately. If La has been somehow jolted out of one due to an accident or some kind of shock, it is important to try to bring it back. And so in Ben, we have particularly a strong Lalu, the calling, retrieval of the soul. That means bringing back that energy into the body. And I have seen that have profound effects on people. Perhaps you have also. Sok, however, when that's done, you're done. Your life is over. Namshi, consciousness, on the other hand, is there throughout life. You will lose your connection with the body through Namshi departing it, and the body will die, but the Namshi and the continuity of one's being goes on. So La has a special place among that triad. The Central Asian Turkic idea of Kut also saw Kut as the spirit of a mountain and also possibly the attribute of a living person, like a great Khan who conquered a lot of territory would be said to have a lot of Kut, just like a great Lama is understood to have a lot of power, vitality of a certain kind, a lot of La, in fact. Likewise, in the beliefs of the old Turkic people of Central Asia, Kut is a cosmic force linking the earth with the infinite sky. Implicitly, this is true in the Buddhist use of La as well. And we see that La, like breath, is an integrating category. It brings together disparate elements, ordinary and awakened. In the case of Buddhism, the case of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra that we just mentioned, land, sky, sea, human, all can participate in La. From a modern perspective, what is especially interesting about breath, La, and the air element is that they are all instances of what Daniel Stern, in his brilliant study of infant perception, the interpersonal world of the infant, published in 1985, calls vitality. And he got so interested in vitality, he wrote another little book on it in 2010. So vitality it's become a kind of modern category, owing partly to his work. And just as the element of air, at least, is associated with cross-functional categories, so vitality is important because it is transmodal. It is something unlike form and color, which is only available, generally speaking, to the eye sense. Vitality is available to all of the senses. It's not captured by only one sensory type of experience. A loud sound would be an oral experience of vitality. A powerful taste would be a gustatory experience of vitality. A strong kinesthetic experience, tactile experience, vitality. It's transmodal. We know that the Buddha is also transmodal, at least that's what the texts tell us. So there seems to be some kind of interesting mirroring here going on in terms of trying to understand human experience in the context of experience that isn't totally captured by specifically defined human capacities, if that's not too broad and general a thing to say. Thus, again, we see that La, like vitality, like Kut, is highly integrative, intersectional as a category. Let me return again in closing, to the notion of the elements. Air itself is elemental movement, as we have said, and therefore, as also said, in close relationship with everything that moves, therefore with all other elements. Earth, by contrast, for example, is defined as that which is solid and stable. However, the earth also has movement associated with it, and therefore we can speak of the rlung earth element. All of the five elements can be seen in any one element typically. So we speak of the earth space, wind space, and so on in terms of the space element. They're integrative. The elements are integrative with each other also, which is kind of interesting. They're basic building blocks, but they are not tightly bounded. They are Zhenghua. They are arisings. They arise. And they arise in multiplicity of ways. In their arising, they are all associated with movement and thus with air, and thus, again, a kissing cousin to breath. Movement is life. Breath is vital. Breath kisses everything. The air element kisses everything. No wonder it is regarded likewise as present in everything. And in this, it is also connected with the Dakini, famous for moving, for flying, for speeding through the sky of her own wisdom, the air of her that is her home. A Tibetan salutation to the Dakini uses the Sanskrit Namo Sarva Dakye. Depending on how one reads this compound, it means homage to the Dakini, who is everything, and who is the Dakini, Sarva Chadaki Chaya. Savasya Daki, the Dakini of everything. Sarvasmin Daki, the Dakini within everything. The same could be said of breath, the breath which is everywhere, which is in everything. So, in honor of the stirrings of Dakini, breath, air, and vitality in all of us, I invite you to rest your gaze for a few moments and your attention lightly on your breath and just experience whatever integration might be possible. I'm going to share my screen. It might be clunky for a moment. Thank you. Keep breathing.